Kamen Rider Wiki.
Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here with my review of Kamen Rider Ex-aid episode 45, the series finale. So, this shouldn't be that long of a video because I'm basically just going to go over my thoughts on the episode itself, and then as with last year in Ghost, I'm going to do a series review for Ex-aid in general. So I'm going to try not to delve off too far into tangents about, like, series-long stuff, but overall, this was a decent finale. It was pretty straightforward and pretty generic, and I don't really necessarily mean that in a bad way, just like there was no big surprises, which I didn't necessarily expect, or no, I felt memorable action moments. It was just pretty straightforward. We beat the enemy in the first act, and then we went on to sort of like, oh, here's what's gonna happen, here's their endings, their epilogue type of stuff. And Build actually didn't make an appearance. Again, I didn't really follow the scans too closely this year, so I knew things on a very basic level, so I was kind of happy about that. Like, so Build's cameo was last episode, and then we did get a little bit with Dan created the Build Geshat at the very end, but it was more like a little after credit commercial type feeling, so it wasn't really part of it. But so Build did not appear in this, so that, again, it's not like I would have been pissed, but as I went on in length about last week, I just think that it's unnecessary given that the little trailer airs all during this episode. You know what I mean, like after, I mean, it could be in the commercial before, but anyway. So it was pretty straightforward stuff. We picked up and they're like, oh no, you can't do Muteki, and Kronos was like, lol, I'm so powerful again, and he froze them all, but then there was some very convenient stuff where all of a sudden M's like, actually I still can transform, and then they all defeated him in their base forms, and then epilogue stuff, and you know, M's gonna continue leading the CR, and they're gonna work hard to bring back the people that were Bugsters as humans, but reminding everyone that, you know, they're still living people. And Hiro's continuing on as a doctor, and Taiga got his license renewed, Kiria's gonna continue on. It looks like Dan is still imprisoned to basically just be used when he's needed by the Ministry and the CR and all that stuff. And Poppy and Palad did resurrect in this episode. As many people pointed out to me last week, the movie has been confirmed canon. I'm gonna wait and see, because I see so many conflicting reports about that. I'm not saying you're lying. Why are you lying? No, but I'm just gonna wait to see how I feel all about that until I see it sometime next year when it gets here. But that's confusing to me. I don't mind the movies being canon when it's something like A to Z, like, you know, Double, where it was mid in the series, but it didn't really create anything crucial for you. But like when you watched it later, you're like, oh cool, now that gap's kind of filled. I kind of would have preferred it to be like an alternate telling of the finale. Like I talked about before, I like how Fies and Blade and stuff did that, where it was basically alternate events. But we'll see, because people pointed out like Palad and Poppy were alive in that. And then I think we're getting some V-Cinemas I just saw announced, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out with everything and how much the V-Cinemas reference the movie. So I don't know about all that. Like, you can tell me all you want, but I'm just gonna wait and see how I feel about how connected it is. But basically, the reason I bring that up is because people brought up like Palad and stuff was alive. And as I said last week, I kind of expected them, one or both of them, to come back at some point. I was a little bit disappointed by that. I wasn't overly outraged. And again, it has nothing to do with like my dislike for Poppy. It's just I thought they both had really good sacrificial like endings. And like I said, I've had a feeling they would come back regardless, but I think it was too soon for both. And I mentioned Poppy, I felt being the more likely, just because she seems like a kind of an iconic character they'd want to bring back whenever they bring back any members of Ex-aid's crew for any future movies or whatever. But hers, I actually, in terms of explanation, it was weird because basically both her and Palad came back because they got a bit of their Bugster dust when they died, and Poppy's was easier to swallow in terms of like, it made sense that Dan would figure out a way to bring her back. I honestly thought for a second he just brought her back in the game and she would always be in the game and like play with the players, and I thought that actually could have been kind of a neat end. But hers was easier to swallow. I thought Palad's seemed just really like, oh no, we can't let anything bad happen. I couldn't would have preferred it if it wasn't like, oh, he collected the dust in his hand, and it was more like there was a little bit residual virus in M, or there always would be or something, and that's what Dan could have used as the igniter to bring back Palad. But I was a little bit disappointed by the convenience of that. And there was also a line about potentially bringing back Hiro's fiance, and again, that's not something I'm opposed to later, totally, because I don't think it takes away from Hiro's sacrifice, but I think I prefer her being one of the few to stay dead. Again, that sounds so morbid, but I think I really liked that story for Hiro, and I think it just undermines it. But, you know, if it's a while before she ever comes back or whatever, it doesn't undermine the decision he made at the time. It's just sometimes that stuff bothers me because, especially when I really like the decision made behind it and then it's undercut. But yeah, it was pretty basic. I was pretty pleased with the way everything turned out. You know, it was a decent little final fight, a good place to leave off everything, kind of in a way that basically left things open. It didn't really close off any paths that they're gonna have to explain weirdly later when the V-Cinemas happen or when crossovers or whatever, what have you happen. So yeah, it was pretty basic, and I don't have a whole lot to say about the finale itself because it was so basic, and I kind of want to make this video a little shorter because right after this I'm going to film my series review, and that will be a bit longer. And like I said, I don't want to go on any tangents, except for right now I'm going on a tangent, I'm going on a tangent. But like I said, overall, it was just a solid finale. Nothing like spectacular, just kind of ended it in a pretty generic but decent way. I would probably give it an 8. But anyway, until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. It's Dawson Rider, signing out.